There are over 33 currencies on the African continent, and not one of those currencies is used for intra-African trade. Approximately 80% of the intracontinental and international transactions are completed using foreign currencies. Guess what those currencies are? Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Odunayo, your host and the number one citizen on this continent. I'm just kidding. But anyways, welcome back to another video. And if this is the first video you're watching, firstly, have you been living under a rock? But we don't judge here. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I'd like to encourage you to actually go back to those videos to see them, to watch, drop a comment, drop a like, share with someone, because many of the videos are a build up on the previous ones. Yes, so yep. So we really like you to actually watch those videos before coming to watch this one. But if you have seen all 4 videos, you're an OG. But anyway, so let's get right into today's video. Let's talk about something interesting today. Let's talk about money. There are over 40 individual currencies on the African continent, and many of these currencies lack the scale or convertibility to be used to complete cross-border trade. And so because of this, approximately 80% of the intracontinental and international transactions are completed using foreign currencies. Guess what those currencies are? The US dollar and euro. And this is what I've concluded. Money is often misunderstood. And most people think that money is wealth, but really money isn't wealth. It is simply trust. Money is trust. Hear me out. So a 1,000 naira note is not valuable because of the paper. It is because of the value that we have put on it. It's valuable because every single person agrees that, oh, this money is valuable, not because of anything else, because we agreed as humans that, oh, I think this is valuable. That theory is true for dollars as well as euros. Currencies only work because people trust that somebody somewhere will accept it tomorrow. Just a simple analogy. There was a time where, like I said, I currently stay in Nigeria. There was a time where our currencies were about to be changed. And so people started letting go of the old ones. And if you wanted to purchase something using the old currency, it will most likely not be accepted because in a matter of months or weeks even, it was going to be rendered null and void. Does that make sense to you? And so now the value was now on the recent ones that have been printed. And now here is the problem. Each African country created its own system of trust. Nigeria trusts the naira, Kenya trusts the Kenyan shilling, Ghana trusts the cedis, South Africa trusts the rand, and Egypt trusts the Egyptian pound. Each currency works well within its own borders. And the moment trade crosses a border, that trust fizzles out, it completely disappears. And a Kenyan exporter is not exactly comfortable conducting large transactions in Naira. The Nigerian importer or exporter also doesn't want to use the Kenyan shilling because why? So both businesses look for something that they both trust. Can you guess what that is? The US dollar. And it's really not because America is directly involved. It's not because America is involved. It is because both nations trust that the US dollar will be accepted anywhere, anytime. And this is why a Nigerian company that wants to trade with Kenya has to convert that currency to dollar before making the transaction because there is an unspoken trust that, oh, the American dollar would work any day, anytime, anywhere. Whereas reverse is the case for our own indigenous currency. Let's look at it this way. Imagine speaking Yoruba to someone who understands only Swahili, and then that person also speaking Swahili to you who only understands Yoruba. And so just for the trade or just for you to understand each other, you both learn a third language, English. The Nigerian person has to learn English, and also the Kenyan also learns English. And that is exactly what the dollar has become, the world's financial translator. And at first glance, it doesn't seem like a problem. I mean, the trade still happens, the exchange of goods, of service, of money, of whatever. It still gets done, right? There's no problem there. But underneath the surface, every transaction creates friction. Imagine a Nigerian wants to import from Cameroon and then he has to convert firstly to dollar before purchasing whatever item he wants to purchase. And then there are so many online issues if we think about it in depth. Bank charges fees. And foreign exchange dealers charges spreads. Other times governments impose restrictions. And by the time that this money reaches Cameroon, both businesses have actually lost money. Not because the item in itself has become more expensive, but because the money itself has become expensive. And now imagine doing this every week, every month, over and over and over and over again. Small, it might seem small, but over time, small costs becomes massive costs. And for small businesses, those costs could be the difference between business growth and bankruptcy. And economists call that transaction costs. But transaction costs are actually more than accounting entries. They are invisible taxes on African trade. And in as much as I'd like to actually reduce the comparison with Europe, this is one of the times that I actually want to bring it up just so that the point could be driven home. Did you know that in Europe, 20 countries actually share a single currency, the euro? I'm sure you did not know that. And so just imagine trade from one country to the other. It drastically reduces costs for businesses compared to the this case where you had to convert to another currency before converting to your currency. Just because our currencies lack the scale or convertibility for interborder trade. Honestly, having a unified currency would make prosperity easy to scale because it's going to remove friction from the trade, from the transactions going on the face of the continent. And so when investors begin to examine the market, the questions that they're asking is not just if people can buy a product, but they begin to ask how complicated it is to get paid for the product. And so if the answer includes multiple currencies, unpredictable exchange rates, central bank approvals, and foreign exchange shortages, investments become riskier. And the capital will most likely flow somewhere else. And when that happens, businesses will remain small. And many people, and so let's dial back to after. Many people think that the African Continental Free Trade Area is simply about removing tariffs. That's part of it, but it's not just about that. Tariffs are only one obstacle. Imagine removing every customs checkpoint, but businesses still have to convert to three different currencies before transactions can be completed. Trade will still be slow. It will still slow things down. And that's why payments infrastructure matters. Our financial system is so fragmented on this continent. It's like we're all operating in silos. And when we come together to transact, somebody else has to form the bridge by which we can communicate or transact with one another before trade can go on. And that's exactly why payment infrastructure matters. Projects like the Pan African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS. And what PAPS is doing is attempting to solve this problem by allowing businesses to make transactions in their own local currencies. And it's not that settlements will not happen, but it will happen behind the scenes. So instead of converting naira to dollar, then if you want to transact with a Kenyan, you convert to Kenyan shilling. You make the transaction directly in your Nigerian naira, and the Kenyan receives his own currency. And that way, the business doesn't have to worry about dollars. The system completely handles that. And that's exactly how modern financial infrastructure should work. When people talk about Africa's future, they mention railways, ports, infrastructures, all of these things. They are actually very important, but the invisible infrastructure is equally important. Things like payments, banking systems, settlement networks, and trust. Because economies grow when money moves freely, not just when people move, but also money. And perhaps one of the greatest revolutions on this continent will not just be what we see with our physical eyes, but the invisible things, the invisible part that allow things move freely on the surface of the continent. True economic independence is not just achieved when each country prints their own currency, but when we can trade across the continent without needing a third currency to ease the medium of exchange for us. It will be achieved when African businesses can trade with African businesses effortlessly. When payments become as seamless as sending a text message, then the dream of a truly integrated African market moves from policy to reality. We probably have enough trade, but what we need more of is trust. Africa doesn't need to become the next Europe or the next America. It just needs to become the best version of itself. And that's exactly what we're exploring here on Built by Africa. If you enjoyed this conversation, subscribe to this YouTube channel, drop a comment, drop a like, share this video with someone who is equally as passionate about this continent. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.